Hi Lisa, is free will illusory? Does it matter whether it is or not? It matters seeing that. So seeing that free will is illusory, but on the human level it feels like you have free will. So it feels like you, on the human level, you can choose between this drink or this drink. But where do those thoughts and choices appear from? So that choice that chose this drink came from the absolute and wasn't personal. So on the human level we say we choose, Lisa chose this drink. But on the absolute level, how do you choose your impulses and thoughts? So on that level they come from the infinite. So seeing that is super important. And on the human level, understanding it, so reconditioning yourself to that level, because most of the time we believe others have free will and we have free will, and we get caught in a lot of thoughts of blame, expectation, guilt. I did something wrong, they did something wrong. These basic feelings are important. It's important to tell someone off if they've been inappropriate, and it's also important to take responsibility if you've done something wrong, so guilt. But getting stuck in the mental activity of them is out of line with reality. It's out of line of how things are. You know, when you're blaming someone for weeks or years or months or however long. But it's important to call people out on their shit. I realised the hard way of being in this subject that being a passive character, that teaching could make me too passive. Now, if I get pissed with someone, I tell them to F off. Not all the time. If it's my mum, I don't. But I can be quite feisty. I'm not opposed to sticking up my finger now to somebody that has been very aggressive on the motorway or something. When I was younger and into Buddhism, I was like, you couldn't do that. Whereas now, it's like, it's just an expression. It's not personal to them. It's funny actually, because now I find that if I go for someone, I now swear a lot. And I think that part of that is because it's actually really impersonal swearing. I know the words can be quite ugly things sometimes, but it's actually really impersonal. It's like, it's not saying that person is a bad person as such, or you are evil and da da da. It's just kind of like lots of sounds coming up. And it's important, but it's important. I use my anger now, if I get angry, to determine if, on the human level, if I've not put up a boundary correctly, because normally I get angry if a boundary is not up correctly, and I'll respond, and I now use it, whereas before, because I had so much Buddhist training, I trained myself not to really act out of anger, where I now use my anger, not abuse. I wouldn't say I'm abusive to someone, but it depends a bit on what they're used to. If they're not used to somebody that's quite verbally active, then they might feel that quite overwhelming. But so I'm not suggesting being abusive to people, but for me personally, that works well. If I feel annoyed with someone, I express it in that moment when I feel angry. Because if I don't, then it will just pass by and I haven't asserted a good boundary. Like there's something that's irritated me or bugged me or not been okay, and because I'm so passive, I can let things go so easily if I just do it there and then. So on the absolute level, where does thoughts and feelings and choices come from? And it's important on one way to see that on the human level, but also on the human level it appears as if you do something. It appears as if you can choose to watch TV all day or go for a walk. You also have to be really careful with this, because you've got different personality types, and different personality types respond differently to this teaching. And there's certain personality types that I see get hold of this, and they use it as a weapon in an argument. And don't do that, any of you. Don't ever use non-doership as an excuse in an argument. When you're arguing, you argue. You don't say there's nobody doing anything. Dick. That's a stupid, no, not a stupid thing. That's That's a really manipulative game. Very manipulative, especially if you're both into non-duality. Don't to cut someone off like that. That's a really passive aggressive game. Now, see, that's where I wasn't actually angry there, because it was kind of a joke, but because I've in the past used that as well. I think all of us do. But don't do it. Pas bien.